Hey everybody, today's topic is about adventure videos and specifically about my cameras and general setup. On a given tour, I generally carry 3 different cameras, which I'm going to go into depth about. And at the end, I'm going to discuss a 4th mystery camera that I'm still just, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about. So let's just dive right in. I use my GoPro about 90% of the time, and I'm one upgrade behind. This is the 11 Black. The 12 just came out. It's getting great reviews, of course, but I don't think I'm going to upgrade just yet. It's sort of like an iPhone thing. I wait a few revisions unless there's just some incredible change. And as far as I can tell, the 11 is still a really high quality camera in comparison. In my experience, this is a truly awesome camera. It has excellent quality and durability. Obviously, I try to be careful, but I've dropped this thing. It has fallen off my bike. It's been through extreme cold, pouring rain, you name it, it just keeps going. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've had either a corrupted file or other issues. All in all, just exceptional performance. I carry 3 batteries on every tour, and I generally go through one of them in a typical 50 to 60 mile day. As you can probably tell, I take a lot of footage. Yes, even more than I put in my extended ride-along videos, if you can believe that. But the 11 had significantly better battery management. I had a 7 Black before, but a typical battery, it gives me about an hour and a half of actual record time. And the new Enduro batteries seem to perform even better. They have longer record times, and they perform better in extreme heat or cold, which is what they were designed to do. So I think they're worth the extra cost than the regular batteries. In terms of mounts, this has been an ongoing experiment. I've tried a shoulder mount, chest mount, hand mount, head mount, different selfie sticks, and finally different bike mounts. And my conclusion is I make the most use out of a really good bike mount and occasionally use a chest mount. I use a really rigid mount on a handlebar extender, and I like this view the most because I think it takes in the most scenery. The extender keeps my camera from picking up hands or brake hoods. And the chest mount is also really good if you want that rider point of view perspective. I also like that when I've got the camera on it, the camera goes with me wherever I go, so I can grab off the bike footage more easily. Perhaps my favorite accessory for the GoPro is an inexpensive quick release connector from the company called Ulanzi. It allows me to detach the camera with one hand and take the camera off. I can take video of passing points of view as well as record lame jokes and often pointless commentary. And don't forget my giggling. It also makes it really easy if I'm stopping somewhere and I just need to pop the camera off and take it with me without having to undo a bunch of screws and connections. So I think this is worth every penny. In terms of memory, I use a large 512 gig micro SD card in the camera, and that is absolutely more than enough for an extended tour. Knock on wood, I have never had a corrupted card. I hear others say that they carry smaller cards, several of them, and switch them out in order to minimize the risk of losing everything on one card. And perhaps someday you'll hear me scream from somewhere in the world when that happens, but not yet. Again, 512 gigs is overkill. I shoot in 4K, and according to GoPro's website, at 24 frames per second and a standard bit rate, you can record over 5 hours of footage on a 128 gig card. The estimate for my 512 gig card with the same settings is 18 and a half hours. So about 2/3 of my footage ends up on the cutting room floor. So my hour and 45-minute video recently from the Erie Canal started with about 5 hours of raw footage. So again, a 128 card may have been enough, but, well, cards are fairly cheap, so I've got plenty of memory if needed. The 512 gig SanDisk Extreme, which I'll explain in a minute, is around $40 at this time. I also carry a 128 gig backup just in case. One other note on the micro SD cards is to be sure that you purchase cards with a faster write speed. I like the SanDisk Extreme or even the Extreme Pro cards. You are writing an incredible amount of data from the camera, and sometimes the standard variety just can't keep up. They lag, and sometimes the files will get corrupted because of that. The good thing is that they aren't that much more expensive than the standard cards, so you're not going to break the bank. The Extreme card is $40 and the standard is $35. So again, I think it's worth the extra performance. In terms of features, there's a lot of features for the GoPro, and this is going to be a short video, but I'm going to point out one GoPro feature that I use a lot, and that is quick capture. It's really simple. You press the shutter button to record, it powers up and it starts recording. You press it again, it stops recording and it powers off, which makes it really, really simple for recording while you're on a ride. I can literally just press one button. Other than that, I turn off nearly every special feature, including GPS and voice activation. It's all really cool stuff, but it just also consumes a lot of battery power, and I've yet to really find a need for a lot of this stuff, which probably drives the marketing teams at GoPro crazy. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see the point other than the coolness factor, like voice activation, which is very cool. I have experimented with time-lapse and star trail night photography, which I think is really cool, and I want to play with these features more in the future. In terms of video settings, this could be and probably will be an entire video in the future, but I researched a wide variety of YouTube's videos for the quote-unquote best settings, and I'm going to link to a few of those in the description because there's a lot to consider, and it definitely takes some time to dial in what sort of output you're looking for. I used to shoot in a flat color profile because I did color correction and color grading in Final Cut Pro. Otherwise, the natural default color setting actually works fantastic. The camera overall tends to boost really vibrant color. It's just the standard GoPro output, and honestly, I think we've grown so used to that from seeing so many YouTube videos recorded on GoPros. But it's greatly simplified my editing time by sticking to the default settings and then only correcting or grading when something just looks off, like a really overcast day, or when I'm trying to match the GoPro footage with another camera's output. Special thanks to a subscriber, Gord, who not only provides just super excellent feedback on nearly every video I've ever done, but really helped me to wade through the world of color management. You have been a huge help, Gord. Thank you. The stabilization feature on the camera, I think it's really fantastic. Having gone through several different cameras over the years, to see how awesome this is compared to even just 5 years ago, it's fantastic. And in terms of field of view, I shoot in just a linear mode rather than the wide angle because I just don't like when objects like trees or houses start to bend on the edges in those wide angle options. I also use the wind reduction feature in the camera rather than a dead cat or wind protector. I find that while they'll help with voice audio, they tend to screw up the ambient sounds that are around you, which I really want to capture. Pause here if you want to see my basic setting preferences. All right, my second go-to camera is the Insta360 One X. This is at least, yes, it is 2 models behind, but it really does the job for how I use it. I get about 45 minutes of recording time on a single battery. And all in all, since I don't use it as much as my GoPro, I can get several days of touring content on a single battery. I take 2 of them on a typical tour, 1 to use and 1 as a backup. I keep the camera on the selfie stick that it comes with. I don't even concern myself with trying to mount it onto anything else. I'll explain why in a minute. But let's get to the best feature of all, which is how the selfie stick disappears in the actual video. So you can see here in this shot the shadow of the camera and the selfie stick, but it doesn't appear in the actual video. And while I'm easily impressed, I think that is the single most cool feature. When fully extended, the camera gives the impression of a drone shot or that there's a separate person around you. And I think that's worth the price of the camera right there. But let me back up the train for a moment here. I originally bought this with a totally different purpose in mind. I did workshops in my professional responsibilities, and I thought it would be really cool to have this immersive 360 video that outsiders could watch and, sort of participate in the session. And it sounds good, but there's two big problems. First, the resulting 360 file size is enormous. A minute of GoPro footage, 4K, 24 frames per second, is about 400 to 450 megabytes, while a minute on the Insta360 at 5.7K, 30 frames per second, is a gig all by itself. It's more than double the GoPro. Secondly, there just are not a lot of options for true 360 viewing. YouTube used to have the cardboard viewing option with which you could use a headset to see a 360 view. It disappeared a while ago. Basically, it makes a headset and the 360 feature useless now, which is a bummer. Overall, 360 recording just feels like a technology that's maybe ahead of its time, and who knows, someday someone will come up with a better way to share and view 360 files. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I never use the 360 footage just by itself. I always convert it to a flat perspective. More on that in a minute. Also, this camera took some time to get used to. With traditional cameras, you're concerned about framing and composition of your shots. But with a 360 camera, you're capturing a sphere around wherever this camera is positioned. And again, maybe it's just me. I had a hard time getting my head wrapped around this. So if you look at this footage, it is all the same shot. When you import the footage into the Insta360 software, you choose which viewpoint you want to export and use. You can compose a shot out of 360 degrees of footage, which provides a lot of flexibility and options like panning around a scene or doing, say, a split screen where you can show an event as well as maybe capture a reaction to it at the same time, or doing drive-by footage like this one. This is just one video file. I'm going to keep my eye on this technology because I think it just has a lot of promise as it matures. And the most recent model, I believe, is the X3. It's gotten fantastic reviews. I'm just not ready to upgrade yet, mostly because it's not my main camera. Although I should point out that my model is not waterproof and the X3 is, so that might push me over the edge soon, because when there's rain in the forecast, I tend to either leave this behind or keep it packed away, which means I'm just not going to use it. Finally, the most obvious camera is just my iPhone. I have the 13 Pro Max. Honestly, I find the output of this camera to be some of the best footage that I come home with. And while the video capture is really, I think, pretty fantastic, I tend to use this more as my point and shoot camera. I keep it in the top tube pouch of my bike and often reach for it if I just want to capture a quick picture or a short reaction video. If it had more memory and the battery life was better, I have a feeling I'd use this a lot more. I used to carry a small point and shoot Nikon, but I think the iPhone pics are really a lot better, and like most smartphones, it's always on me even more than the GoPro. But purely as an action camera, I think the GoPro has a clear upper hand at this time. Okay, finally, the mystery option. A lot of people will ask me if I have or use a drone, and I did, but I actually sold it because I just wasn't getting enough use out of it. There's a lot of regulations in my area about when and where it can be flown. There's this guy named Joe that lives about 5 miles away, and when he's in town, which is a lot, It makes almost the entire area a no-fly zone. Several of the parks in which I like to ride don't permit drones, which just, it stinks. But when I see drone footage from other bike adventures, I just can't help but feel jealous. It's just so incredibly cool. If you've got other thoughts or opinions, I'd really like to hear it, because others tell me I just don't understand drones well enough and I don't have enough experience, and, well, guilty as charged. All right, a little bonus footage. Recently, I purchased a Hover X1 drone, and I'm not really sure if this thing is truly a drone or more like a flying selfie stick. I'm going to do a separate video on this camera shortly. There's some things about this, features that I really, really enjoy, and then some other features that I don't like. You've seen some of the footage from this creeping into some of my videos, and I'll be gathering more experience with this, and we'll have a better review shortly. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I am going to include Amazon affiliate links below for all of this equipment. If you're inclined to purchase any of this and you use the links below, you can really help me out at no additional cost to you, by the way. If you've got your own recommendations to share, please comment below. I am always interested in how others capture their experiences. So I appreciate you watching as always, and I hope to see you out on the trail sometime soon.